What would actually happen if a nuclear bomb went off in your city right now? Not the movie version, the real, scientifically documented step by step sequence of events. In the next 9 minutes, we're walking through the exact timeline. 1 second after detonation, 5 seconds, 30 seconds, 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 day, all the way to 1 year later. And it gets worse with every single tick of the clock. Before we start, some context. We're not talking about the Hiroshima bomb. We're talking about a modern thermonuclear warhead, the kind that exists in arsenals right now. Today's weapons are anywhere from 80 to over 1,000 times more powerful than Hiroshima. Russia and the United States combined have roughly 12,000 nuclear warheads. A single one dropped on a major city would be the largest disaster in recorded human history. Here's what that disaster looks like, second by second. Time zero. The bomb detonates at roughly 600 meters above the city center, the optimal altitude for maximum blast damage. In the first fraction of a second, a fireball erupts with the temperature of the sun's core, over 100 million degrees Celsius. Everything within the immediate blast radius is not destroyed, not burned, vaporized. There is no survival at ground zero. The people there simply cease to exist. 1 second after detonation, the fireball is already larger than a football stadium and still expanding. A blast wave, a wall of compressed air, is now radiating outward at over 1,600 kilometers per hour, faster than the speed of sound. Buildings don't just collapse, they're demolished instantaneously. A reinforced concrete skyscraper 3 kilometers away crumbles in under 2 seconds. The overpressure is strong enough to crush the human chest like paper. 5 seconds in, the shockwave is tearing through the outer city. Concrete structures up to 5 kilometers away are being demolished. Cars are being thrown hundreds of meters through the air. Windows shatter across an area covering hundreds of square kilometers. If you're outside anywhere within 10 kilometers, the pressure wave alone can rupture your lungs and burst your eardrums without a single piece of debris touching you. 30 seconds. The iconic mushroom cloud is forming. The superheated air column is rising at over 100 meters per second, pulling a massive stem of debris, vaporized buildings, and radioactive material upward into the sky. The cap is already punching through 15 kilometers of atmosphere, twice as high as commercial airplanes fly. The entire inner city has ignited. The fires are merging. 1 minute after detonation, a firestorm has begun. This is not regular fire. A firestorm is a self-sustaining atmospheric catastrophe where the heat is so intense it creates its own wind system, pulling oxygen inward from every direction at hurricane force. Temperatures inside the firestorm zone exceed 800 degrees Celsius. Asphalt melts, steel softens. Nothing organic, no person, no tree, no animal survives. And this firestorm can sustain itself for 6 hours or longer. 2 minutes in, the mushroom cloud has now carried tens of thousands of tons of radioactive material into the upper atmosphere. As the cloud cools, these particles, now highly radioactive, begin to fall back toward Earth. They are invisible, they have no smell, they are completely undetectable without instruments, and they are lethal at sufficient doses. This is fallout, and it is just getting started. 5 minutes after detonation, a radiation zone map is forming around the city. Within 1 kilometer of the blast, complete annihilation. 1 to 3 kilometers, severe radiation exposure. Most people will die within days, even if they survive the blast. 3 to 10 kilometers, acute radiation sickness is nearly certain. Beyond 10 kilometers, invisible contamination spreading with the wind, and nobody knows where it will land. 10 minutes. Fallout is now raining down on the outer suburbs. These fine ash-like particles are lethally radioactive. Anyone caught outside touching or breathing them is absorbing a devastating dose. The critical rule of nuclear survival is this: get inside, and stay informed. Every single minute spent outside in a fallout zone multiplies your radiation exposure dramatically. 30 minutes. The fallout cloud is now being carried by upper-level winds hundreds of kilometers away from the blast. Cities that never saw the explosion, that had no warning, are now being contaminated from above. Hospitals within 200 kilometers are already overwhelmed. Tens of thousands of burn victims and blast survivors are flooding emergency rooms that have no capacity to handle them. Roads are completely gridlocked. Emergency services are barely functional. 1 hour, radiation sickness is appearing in survivors who were closest to the blast but outside the immediate kill zone. Nausea, severe vomiting, diarrhea, fatigue. These are the first symptoms. But here is the terrifying part. After this initial wave of sickness, many people feel better. For days, sometimes a week. This is called the latent phase. It is a false recovery that gives people false hope. Then the real wave of symptoms hits, and it is far worse. 1 day later, the latent phase is over for the highest exposure survivors. Severe radiation sickness sets in. The immune system collapses as white blood cell counts crash. Hair begins falling out in clumps. Internal hemorrhaging begins. Open wounds can't heal. For those who received a high enough dose, there is no treatment and no recovery. Meanwhile, the water supply throughout the affected region is contaminated. Food sources are contaminated. Communication infrastructure is completely destroyed. The social fabric of the region has ceased to function. 1 week out. If this was a large enough weapon, or if multiple weapons were used, the early signs of nuclear winter are now measurable. The soot and ash from the fires has reached the upper stratosphere, where it cannot be rained out. It begins to block incoming sunlight globally. Temperatures start dropping. Agriculture in the northern hemisphere begins to fail. The secondary humanitarian catastrophe, mass starvation, is being set in motion, silently, invisibly, thousands of kilometers from the original blast. 1 month, store shelves across the affected region are completely bare. Global supply chains are fractured. Temperature drops are now measurable across the world. Scientists estimate that a full-scale nuclear exchange could reduce global temperatures by 5 to 10 degrees Celsius, enough to devastate agriculture on every continent for years. We are not talking about one country suffering. We are talking about a global famine affecting billions of people who had nothing to do with the conflict. 1 year out, parts of the original blast zone are still too radioactive to safely enter. Nuclear winter effects are reducing crop yields on every continent. Ecosystems worldwide are under severe long-term stress. The survivors within the original blast radius face dramatically elevated cancer risks for the rest of their lives. Some isotopes in the fallout remain dangerous for decades. Full recovery of the affected region is measured not in years, but in generations. This is the documented, scientifically verified timeline of a single nuclear detonation on a major city. And right now, today, there are approximately 12,500 nuclear warheads on this planet, most of them far more powerful than the weapon we just walked through. The Hiroshima bomb killed 140,000 people. A modern warhead hitting a city the size of New York or Tokyo would kill millions within the first hour alone. Which moment on this timeline hit you the hardest? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want more videos that walk through the science behind the things most people are afraid to think about, subscribe and hit the bell. I will see you in the next one.